This video was created using artificial intelligence. All voices and characters are not real. This video is made for educational and informational purposes only. We do not promote hate, misinformation, or political bias. If you are a true history lover and you want to uncover the hidden truths of the past, if you are ready to open the darkest pages of history, then subscribe to Vault of Centuries. Here, we explore the stories that time tried to erase. We reveal forgotten legends, buried secrets, and the harsh truths that never made it into schoolbooks. We don't just tell history, we reveal it. Welcome to Vault of Centuries.
We've all heard of Dracula, fangs, and blood-sucking immortals. But what if I told you the vampire legend was born not in fiction, but in real human fear, disease, and death? The story of vampires is older than Bram Stoker's Dracula. It's rooted in ancient history, dark folklore, and even real scientific confusion. Let's uncover the shocking truth about the vampire myth, from medieval Europe to real medical conditions mistaken as vampirism. Long before Dracula was ever written in 1897, the idea of blood-drinking creatures already haunted human imagination across the ancient world. In fact, nearly every early civilization had its own version of the vampire, not always with fangs and cloaks, but always tied to fear, death, and the unexplained. Let's begin in Mesopotamia, around 4000 BCE, one of the earliest cradles of human civilization. Here, people feared a terrifying demon named Lamashtu. She wasn't just a monster, she was believed to drink blood, spread deadly diseases, and even attack mothers and newborns. To protect themselves, people wore special amulets and recited prayers. She's one of the oldest known figures resembling what we now call a vampire. Then came the ancient Greeks, who spoke of the vrykolakas, corpses that didn't stay buried. These undead beings were said to rise from the grave and drink the blood of the living, especially at night. Unlike modern vampires, they were described as swollen, pale, and decomposing, and people believed that improper burial, or a sinful life, could cause a soul to return as one. Meanwhile, across the continent in ancient China, there was a creature called the jiangshi, a stiff, hopping corpse with glowing eyes and razor-sharp nails. Instead of drinking blood, the jiangshi would absorb the qi, the life energy, from the living. They moved awkwardly, arms stretched forward, and were often the result of spiritual unrest or dark magic. Despite coming from different regions and beliefs, all these vampire-like myths share something in common. They were born from real fears, of disease outbreaks, sudden unexplained deaths, and the horrifying idea that the dead might not stay dead. These were not just stories. They were ancient attempts to explain the unexplainable. From the 14th to the 18th century, a dark fear gripped Europe. A fear so deep, it led to mass hysteria, grave robbing, and even executions. This was the age of the vampire panic. Across Eastern and Central Europe, people truly believed that vampires were rising from their graves and causing death in the villages. Whenever deadly outbreaks struck, especially the Black Death, people searched for answers. And when science couldn't explain it, superstition did. They began to blame the dead. Bodies were dug up, and what they saw terrified them. Some corpses appeared bloated, as if recently fed. Blood was seen trickling from their mouths. In some cases, hair and nails seemed longer than before, signs, they believed, of an undead creature still growing. But what they didn't know is what we understand today. Modern science tells us that these were natural signs of decomposition. After death, gases build up in the body, causing it to swell. As the skin dries and shrinks, hair and nails appear to grow, but it's just an illusion. And that blood in the mouth? It's not feeding, it's just fluid leakage from internal decay. Still, to medieval villagers, these were undeniable signs that a vampire had returned. So they took action. Not with prayers, but with violence. They drove stakes through corpses, decapitated them, and burned their bodies to ash. These weren't just legends. These were real practices, documented in the historical records of places like Poland, Hungary, and Serbia. In some regions, iron stakes were kept ready near graveyards, just in case a vampire returned. To us, this seems like horror fiction. But for them, it was survival. By the 15th century, in the dark forests of Eastern Europe, a real man walked the earth, more terrifying than any fictional vampire. His name was Vlad III of Wallachia, but history remembers him by another name. Vlad Dracula, the Impaler. Born in 1431, in a region now known as Romania. Vlad was the son of Vlad II Dracul, a member of the Order of the Dragon, a Christian military order sworn to defend Europe from the invading Ottoman Empire. That's where the name Dracula comes from. It literally means, son of the dragon. But what Vlad would become was far more terrifying. Vlad ruled Wallachia with an iron fist, and to protect his kingdom from enemies and traitors, he turned to fear. Not just political power, but psychological warfare. His method? Impalement. Vlad was said to have impaled over 20,000 people, Ottoman soldiers, local rivals, and even his own people. Their bodies left on massive stakes, stretching for miles outside his castles, a forest of the dead. To the people of Wallachia, he was a hero, protector who held off the mighty Ottoman Empire. In modern-day Romania, many still remember Vlad as a symbol of national pride. But to others, especially in Western Europe, Vlad was the devil incarnate, a cruel, merciless killer whose thirst for blood seemed inhuman. Centuries later, in 1897, Irish author Bram Stoker wrote a novel, a tale of an immortal vampire from Transylvania, and for inspiration, he borrowed a single name, Dracula. But make no mistake, the real Vlad the Impaler never drank blood. He wasn't a creature of the night. He was a man, made terrifying by history and legend. Yet his cruelty lit the spark that gave birth to one of the greatest horror icons of all time. As terrifying as vampire legends sound, science may actually explain how they began. Several rare medical conditions throughout history could easily have inspired these blood-drinking myths. Take porphyria for example, a rare genetic blood disorder. It causes extreme sensitivity to sunlight, painful blisters, facial disfigurement, and even gum recession that can make teeth appear fang-like. People suffering from porphyria often avoided daylight altogether, just like vampires. Then there's rabies, a viral infection that affects the brain. It can cause aggression, confusion, hallucinations, and an intense fear of water and light. Infected individuals might bite others, foam at the mouth, and avoid mirrors, all eerily similar to vampire behavior. And then comes catalepsy, a neurological condition where the body enters a trance-like state. Heartbeat and breathing slow down to almost nothing, and the person appears dead. In older times, without modern medicine, these individuals were sometimes buried alive. When graves were opened later, claw marks inside coffins and twisted corpses led people to believe the dead had risen, the so-called undead. These medical mysteries, misunderstood for centuries, helped feed the vampire myth, turning fear into folklore, and illness into legend. Between 1725 and 1732, a wave of panic swept through parts of Eastern Europe, especially in Serbia, where entire villages believed that vampires were real. Two chilling cases ignited the fear. Petar Blagojevic and Arnold Pauli, both believed to have risen from their graves to haunt the living. Locals swore they had seen them walking at night, and blamed them for sudden deaths in their communities. The panic grew so intense that in the ancient temples of the Austrian government and military of South America, vampires and officials were sent to investigate forms, and what they found only fueled in Indian mythology. The Vetala is a spirit that inhabits corpses, and hanging upside down like a blood around the mouth or undecomposed skin were discovered. In the Philippines, tales of villagers believed it was proof of vampirism. A horrifying female vampire in response that feeds on corpses were staked through the heart and burned to stop the undead from returning. In Africa, what's most shocking is that official military reports from that time still exist and windows by Austrian officers under the cover of confirming that vampires were taken seriously as a real infamous El Chupacabra is wasn't just the blood of livestock. It was seen as a public crisis by farmers, a vampire epidemic that haunted Europe. These stories may seem worlds apart, but they all point to the same truth: every culture has its own vampire, born from the universal fear of death, disease, and the unknown. Vampires weren't always romantic, beautiful immortals. The real vampire was a symbol of fear of things we couldn't explain. What began as folklore turned into mass hysteria, wrongful executions, and even medical misdiagnosis. In the end, the vampire is a reflection of us, our deepest fears, our imagination, and our desperate need to explain the unexplainable. If you enjoyed this journey into real vampire history, subscribe to Vault of Centuries for more hidden truths and stories the world forgot. Like, comment, and share, and let us know which legend we should uncover next.